Ring, ring, ring. GrubHub is being accused in a class action lawsuit of providing sham phone numbers. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and GrubHub is a very interesting company for me. I have delivered for GrubHub many times. I actually enjoy delivering for GrubHub, and yet I don't discuss driving for GrubHub very much. Some people actually write to me and they say, why don't you talk about this GrubHub? Why don't you talk about this about GrubHub? Why don't you talk about this? And I'm sometimes just not aware of what's going on with GrubHub. In fact, I get my news about GrubHub from Paid to Drive, which if you haven't checked out his channel, that is where you want to get your definitive GrubHub news. But once in a while, a story like this will come up, and I will want to talk about it because I like talking about lawsuits. I don't know why. I find them fascinating, especially when considering how they could change the company, either for better or worse. So here's the Philly Mag, and here's what the story says. You're probably familiar with the GrubHub food delivery app. You pull it up, find the food you want, and GrubHub connects you with a local restaurant to get it to you. Simple, right? Not always, says Philadelphia restaurateur Munish Narula, founder of the Tiffin chain of Indian restaurants, which now boasts 12 locations in the Philadelphia area. So this is a place that I clearly will not have eaten at, although it sounds pretty good to be honest. There goes the here. The Wharton graduate who, quote, sparked Philly's Indian explosion with his Tiffin concept has filed a class action lawsuit in Philadelphia's federal court against GrubHub, alleging that the company may have built in its many restaurant customers out of more than $5 million in what Narula calls a scheme involving sham telephone orders. Let me break it down for you. Generally speaking, when you use the GrubHub app, you don't actually speak with anybody until your driver shows up. You just tap what you want on your phone screen, and GrubHub deals with the restaurant to get you the food you need or just want. I've made so many deliveries, like there's some things people have delivered that clearly they don't need. They don't need a Kit Kat bar delivered, they just want it delivered. But the GrubHub app also displays a phone number that will connect you to the restaurant should you wish to place an order via phone or just ask a question. I've done that before at least a few times on one occasion. I wanted to know if a local restaurant, which happens to be Indian but is not Tiffin, would be able to provide a few sides of yogurt for me. Because my kids like to mix their incendiary goat vindaloo, that's a mouthful, with yogurt and rice so as not to disintegrate their esophagus. Oh my gosh, I know some people are gonna get mad at me. I do not know how to read that word. I'm sorry, I don't. The restaurant said no, and so I wound up not ordering from them. Let me fix that. And oh, by the way, there's Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman. He just won an Academy Award a couple years ago for The Darkest Hour. Have any of you seen that? That's a great movie, by the way. The thing is, points out Narulu's lawsuit, the phone number listed on the GrubHub app is not actually the restaurant's phone number. We checked the GrubHub landing pages for several Philadelphia restaurants, and sure enough, a different phone number is listed than the one registered to the restaurant. When you call the number on the GrubHub landing page, the call is rerouted to the restaurant's own phone number, and you have your conversation with the restaurant directly. GrubHub has no involvement. And by the way, that is a very similar situation with how they deal with drivers and passengers. If you text or call someone, whether you're the customer and you want to get a hold of your driver, or you're the driver and you want to get a hold of your customer, you can text or you can call, and it will be a Fox number. It will not be their real phone number, which, by the way, I appreciate because, not to turn this too much into Uber, but when I first started driving for Uber, they didn't do that. And I remember I was picking someone up at the airport, and I called, let them know that the traffic was going slow, and my real phone number was used. I showed up at the place, I couldn't find them, I tried calling again, they weren't there, I canceled, I collected the fee, and then after that call was ended, she called me back because she had my phone number. And there were a couple situations where people would call my personal phone because they had my phone number because we had texted or something. That is not good for the driver. And it's also not good for the customer because, you know, you don't want vindictive drivers who, you know, may do something because they didn't get tipped or something to be harassing you. So I think the masking of the numbers is a good thing. Now, how is this a problem with the restaurant when it's a Fox number but they connect to the restaurant anyway? Well, let's see what the problem is. The complaint at the center of Narula's lawsuit alleges that GrubHub has for years been charging commissions on those phone calls that are routed through GrubHub without his knowledge, and even if the phone calls don't result in a customer placing an order. Okay? Narusha tried it out himself. He called one of his Tiffin locations, had the restaurant put him on hold for 2 minutes, and then he hung up. When he checked his GrubHub ledger later, sure enough, claims the lawsuit, there was a commission fee assessed by GrubHub for that phone number. Okay, so essentially, his argument about this is that because they are collecting a fee from him calling the restaurant, and he's not getting a cut of that. Okay, I haven't read this whole article, admittingly. I'm just gonna say that seems to me to be a weak argument, because you know who also collects money when you call someone? The phone company. Apple collects money. You know, Samsung collects money. If you call Collect, whoever runs Collect, they collect money. And the thing is that GrubHub is providing... Here's what I'm kind of wondering. Would this lawsuit be a thing? Like, let's say they use the actual restaurant phone number, but if you clicked on the app, they called the restaurant and collected a fee for connecting you anyway. That just seems like a service fee. I don't know if that's actually, you know, a scam. At least, I don't think it is. Let's continue this. Later the same day, a woman called one of the Tiffin restaurants via the GrubHub listed number to ask about food allergy issues. Yep, claims the suit. GrubHub charged Narula's company for the call. Diners primarily call their restaurants to check on the status of their delivery orders or to ask questions about the menu, reads the suit. Narula got on the phone with a GrubHub account representative. He says he was told that GrubHub automatically charges a commission on all calls that last more than 45 seconds, regardless of whether a food order is placed. Narula alleges that the same GrubHub representative threatened to suspend his GrubHub account, an account that the suit says is responsible for about 15% of Narula's annual revenue, should he go to the media with his complaints or take any legal action. By the way, having been on the DoorDash end of things and having them threaten to sue me if I, you know, made videos about them, I can say that I kind of believe this part just a little bit. Narula estimates that 80% of the telephone commissions that GrubHub collected through the telephone calls were not related to an actual food order. Okay, so his complaint right now is that he's being charged those fees. Which, in all fairness, I kind of understand why he'd be pissed at that. Because you don't like to pay for things that you don't get something out of. Again, though, that you kind of wonder, how far do you take that? If you get a lot of phone calls and like 50% of those don't result in orders, do you pay half your phone bill at that point? And one of the things that always bothered me a little bit was, you know, when I worked at some retail locations and online was just starting out, sometimes they'd have something shipped to them and they'd pay $4 for the shipping. They'd get it, they wouldn't like it, they'd bring it to the store, and then they'd say, and I should be refunded for the shipping, I shouldn't have to pay for shipping. You know, which they usually did, but my whole thing was, you know, I don't remember a time when if you brought something back to the store, you went up to the customer service person and said, oh, by the way, I should be reimbursed for my gas because I didn't keep this item and this was a waste of time for me to come back to have to return it. I think there's some costs you just have to eat in general. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how this lawsuit goes. The class action lawsuit seeks reimbursement and damages on behalf of all restaurants affected by GrubHub's illegal business practices and breach of contract, which could be a whole lot of restaurants considering that GrubHub works with more than 80,000 restaurants in 1,600 cities across the country, and that the company was expected to see revenues of up to $1 billion last year. GrubHub declined to comment for the story, and neither Narulu nor his attorney were immediately available for comment, which makes me wonder how they got all this information, but okay, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's the guy on the left. He's the one who's suing GrubHub. So, yeah, I'm going to be very fascinated to see where this lawsuit goes, because in my opinion, GrubHub's not necessarily doing anything wrong, because there's a lot of things that you partner with someone, they provide a platform for you to sell your stuff, and you might have to pay for some fees that don't result in sales. eBay is actually the prime example I can think of. I mean, yeah, they're getting a lot better about listing things for free, but you hit a certain listing, and a certain number of listings, and then at one point, you got to pay a fee to list the item. And if it doesn't sell, you don't get that money back. You give it to eBay. You are paying to use their platform, and I believe it is perfectly legal. So under that system, I would say GrubHub is not doing anything wrong here. But of course, we will have to let a court decide that. And what about all of you viewers? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think this is ethical or illegal? I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon exclusive blog. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.